Well, hello, Andre Dentist, Angus Pryor, creator of the Dental Profit System and the author of the Kindle-crushing book, The Better Business Book, bringing you a special report from none other than Las Vegas. And it's my great pleasure today to have Andre Shirdan. What's your organisation called?
So my company is called The Crew Process.
The Crew Process. So Andre from The Crew Process. We are both here at the Dentistry and Dental Marketing Conference. We've managed to find a quiet spot for a few moments, and I thought great opportunity to introduce Andre to you and have a chat about all things dentistry. And, you know, we're here in Las Vegas in the midst of a pretty crazy time, it's fair to say. And so our topic for today is how to, survive and thrive in an increasingly competitive space in dentistry and indeed in some confusing times.
Very.
So welcome, Andre.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So tell us a bit now. We've only met in the last few days. You've been in this game for quite a while.
This will be my 29th year in dentistry.
Right. So obviously, Andre, you started when you were about 5 years old. Is that
Seven.
Right? 7. Okay. Here we are. That's good. So tell us a little bit about your background.
So I started in high-end retail. I sold designer clothing.
Rightio. He's a very well-dressed man.
Yeah, well, now it's just jeans. Yeah. So, and my brother-in-law, who was a dentist, asked me to come in and help him, quote unquote, help him with his practice, because I was the only person in the family who kind of knew anything about business.
Right.
So I made the leap from very high-end retail into working in his practice, helping him on the day-to-day front desk procedures, collections, confirmation, and then taking what I learned from retail and from my training at Disney, my training with Ritz-Carlton, into what we do in the dental field. And I've delivered that message to thousands of practices across the country now. So
it's interesting. I know a few people in this space, and sometimes your experience is richer for what you bring in from what you've come from before.
Yep.
A buddy of mine, Mark Costas, who'd be well known to a number of the viewers, he had what I would call a fast food truck, but all of that knowledge that he had from that sort of retail and the business side, and then able to bring that into dentistry. So it sounds like you've had a similar experience.
it is, and I spend as much time outside of dentistry as I do in. I mean, 90% of my clients are dentists,
Yeah.
but I try to spend as much time outside of dental world learning the things that help us.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I've just been to a business conference in Vegas last weekend, and same deal. I mean, I had a buddy of mine who's a dentist, shout out to Jason, who was there, but otherwise, I mean, it was all just business people, and so it was from all walks of life.
Well, there's a lot of cross-training that we find, and even when I talk to doctors about hiring staff, I said, think about that great hostess at the restaurant you visited. Think about the person who checked you into the last hotel. Those are the kind of people and the training that they receive that we, when you do apply it to the dental field, it's a great, building block for some of the coding that we use and those things that are technical. But you can't train on that customer service one-on-one thing that we really need in dentistry.
Have you met David Moffat, Andre?
I have, David.
Okay.
I've met
Hello, David. Don't say I don't love you.
Yep. And it wasn't going too fast when I drove you to the airport.
Definitely a man after your own heart. It seems to me that every other post I see from David is talking about that same experience, the customer experience, outside of dentistry and what we can do to bring it in.
It's an important factor here in Vegas. I mean, it's the difference between the hotels on the Strip and the service you receive, and those who are not on the Strip.
Yeah.
For that reason.
Yeah.
We're seeing things in the industry change where patient loyalty is at a minimum. Patients tend to follow their insurance, and when we have something like a patient experience, that changes and elevates what we do in the company.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I've seen different bits of research, but the one thing I'd say is when you're treated well, You know, you tell a number of people. When you're treated badly, you're going to tell everyone.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, that sort of, if you treat badly, you've got to recover well. But certainly treating patients well is helpful, but you've got to do a lot of that to build up.
Yes.
So what pearls have you got? We've got this topic of how to survive and thrive in dentistry. Why don't you tell us a bit about what you actually do when you're dealing with dental clients?
Well, some of the things I presented today was to take some of the things that we see outside of dentistry. Like recently, I think I hit my 20th year as a American Express member.
Right.
So I got an anniversary card.
Wow.
And I thought, here's something that we do on a daily basis in dentistry, which is sending a birthday card. I mean, that sort of canned birthday card that you get from your dentist.
Right.
And I thought, why not serve our patient differently by sending an anniversary card to those patients who've been with you for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, you know? And as we start to see some of my clients transition ownership, this is a great thing to show the loyalty, to build that patient loyalty in. So the little things like that, those are the things that I work on a daily basis, is to find those little nuggets that will take the patient from somebody who shows up every 6 months to somebody who's more engaged as a client.
It's almost like you are kind of, we've got someone who needs to come in the door.
Oh,
Andre.
I'm going to run get him.
Okay, so I'm just thinking from my point of view as a consumer, if a business that I've been dealing with for a long time sends me a message and says, hey, thanks so much for being a client for 5 or 10 years or whatever, it's actually sort of reinforcing my own behaviour. It's kind of like I'm going, oh yeah, I have been going there for a long time. It's nice to be recognised, and I think it actually probably solidifies that even more.
It does. I mean, back to my retail days, I mean, any customer who came in, we sent a thank you card, a handwritten thank you card to somebody, even if they bought a pair of socks.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was the level of care that we gave our clients.
This was at Kmart, was it?
It was Walmart. Yeah. And one of the things that was important about living that brand, I worked for Yves Saint Laurent. Living that brand on a daily basis, you had to find a way to separate yourselves, because that level of client, somebody who's going to pay $3,000-4,000 for a suit, could go anywhere, and does. So having those little extras like that thank you card, like gift wrapping, everything, so that not only did they have the experience of buying that product, but getting home and unwrapping it, almost like they would for a holiday. Yeah. And taking that also to go back to the dental level. Patients leave with a little plastic bag with their toothbrush and floss and something from the office. Well, if that's a new patient, why not elevate that experience and gift wrap it? So why not put it in a gift bag so that when they get home, or better yet, they take it back to their office and put it on their desk. Yeah. And somebody says, oh my goodness, you got a gift. Is it your birthday? Well, no, this is the take-home package that my dentist gives me.
It's interesting because, I mean, there's a bit of extra effort involved, but the actual price differential's hardly anything. A bit of wrapping paper and, I really like it.
Yeah, even it's something as simple as a patient has surgery, and in a bag, we provide them with a can of chicken noodle soup. And just gauze that we would typically just put into a full, an envelope and give them. Right. Why not wrap it in, a ribbon, punch a hole, and put your business card in it, and present it to them that way, so that, again, the experience not only happens in the office, but afterwards.
Yeah, that's good. And I think the other thing I was thinking about as we're talking is, so you've worked for Highend, Yves Saint Laurent, but, there's a lot of dentists watching this who don't have high-end practices, and, frankly, if you're in a lower socioeconomic area, that may not be the thing you want to be doing. Right. But that doesn't mean you can't give that sort of more of a blue ribbon type experience.
Yeah, and one of the things, it's sort of one of the taglines I use in all of my presentations is, I don't ever want anybody to adopt what I do, but to adapt what I do. Yeah. The practice I started in was 2 chairs, very, very middle-class income patients, but what we were able to do is elevate their experience. Even if it was just, a typical dental office, everybody had an experience. And that's what made a big difference. And this was, back in the 90s, everybody had headphones that they were able to wear and choose their own music type.
Right.
Now we can do that through Pandora and those kind of things.
Right.
But we were actually burning CDs for each patient based on a playlist that they would like.
To listen to while they were...
Yep.
Okay.
So we would ask them, oh, you're going to be coming in for a 2-hour appointment. Let's tell us what you like. And then we'd burn a CD so that they would have something to go through the long procedure.
Okay. Look, you remind me of something. I can't remember his first name, but it was some of you would have heard of SAS, which is the Scandinavian Air Service. I think that's the acronym. And I think the guy's name was Jan Carlson, who came in as the new CEO. This is back in the 90s. And one of the things that he identified that you're actually describing is what he called touch points or moments of truth.
Yep.
And effectively what he said is, and they managed to turn around an airline that was really in trouble to going really well. And one of the things they did was they said, look, from the moment someone thinks about, going for a flight to the moment they actually get off the plane and get their bag, there are a couple of dozen moments of truth. And all they did was try to make each of these moments of truth just a few % better. You didn't have to go from... sort of pulling your bag off that thing that goes round and round. It wasn't like they needed a concierge there to say, oh, there's your bag, but just each thing a % or two better. And that added up to something that was really significant.
I agree. It's funny. I think, so many of our clients are golfers. And I always think about the fact that, in golf, if you're off by 1% from the tee, as the ball gets out 300 yards, that's a huge gap.
Yes, it is.
So that one touch point makes a big difference. Yeah. I mean, that's one of those things that we realize that not answering the phone in a timely manner leaves an impression on our clients.
Yeah.
You and I fly a lot. That canned message that we get, when we board a plane of hello. At one of the planes I left recently, the flight attendant, on leaving the plane, instead of saying goodbye, she said, "Welcome to Dallas."
Okay.
And I was so ready for the canned bye-bye kind of experience that put a smile on my face, and I felt welcomed to Dallas. It was, again, a touch point.
But it's, I tell you, one of the challenges that occurs to me is that you've got to constantly innovate because, let's say, I just think about, at a shop or something and they say, have a nice day. Yep. And the first time they said that would have been like, wow, no one's ever spoken to me like that before. Yep. Well, a few years down the track, it's like, oh, gosh, I've heard it all before. And I really like the welcome one, but that'll be fine for a few years, and then perhaps everyone's going to do it. Exactly. And once they do, then you've got to innovate again and again and again.
Yep. And I think, I have a background where I worked a lot with software. And one of the things in software is the idea that you develop quickly and you reiterate it quickly. So you beta and then you beta and you beta. It's important to change that. And some things don't work. I don't know if you've experienced this. It really bugs me. I think it's a really bad idea is when the waiters have sort of been down to your level, maybe on a knee, to talk to you as you order. I never thought that was a great experience, but I've seen a lot of people try to duplicate that. They learned it in some seminar and they've been duplicating. I don't find it interesting. I don't like them coming down.
That would freak me out, I think.
I agree, but someone along the round said that was a great idea and people have adopted it. Right. But that's something that they need to move on from quickly.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. Rightio. Well, I tell you what, since we're talking about touch points, and I think my take-home message from this is, the topic is about how to survive and thrive, and one of the ways we're saying to do that from a practice management point of view is to look for these touch points and find a way to just do it a little bit better, and you've given some really neat ideas. Yep. Is there one or two others? Now, I know these people didn't come to the presentation, but nevertheless, let's give them the next best thing.
Well, when I look for ideas, I always look at experiences that we have outside of dentistry. So when I spend a lot of time studying and looking at Disney and understanding what they do, the idea that nothing has to be about dentistry all the time. Yeah, and I think that's one of the most important things. We in the business love dentistry. We look at a photograph and we see from canine to canine. And most patients don't like that view. especially if, from a guy who has stubble, that's not a very attractive view.
Right.
Where you can't get a sense of the patient unless you're seeing the full view of the patient. So, understanding that we need to bring in sort of a maven. I always like having a friend who's, the friend who will tell you, are you sure you want to wear that outfit?
Right.
Have them come into the practice.
Straight shooter.
They're the best. Have them come into the practice and have them walk around and look at things, because we're there all the time. It's very hard to work in the practice and on the practice at the same time. So have a friend come and give you some advice, somebody who's going to be brutally honest.
Yeah.
And those are the little tips that you're going to get. They're priceless.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree. I think about those people that get onto, America's Got Talent or Australia's Got Talent and sing, and they're absolutely terrible. And we know those ones. And they don't have someone like that in their life, because that's the challenge. It's kind of like, you sing for, if my kids come and do something for me, I'm going to say, great job, et cetera, but you need someone there to go, actually, that was terrible. You need a Simon Cowell in your life to
I agree.
say,
yeah.
Yeah.
And I keep thinking how wonderful it would be to have like a Gordon Ramsay show where he goes into a dental office and picks it apart and talks about the cleanliness of it and that kind of, that would be some really interesting.
We should do that, Andre.
I think the HIPAA ramifications and the Board of Health ramifications would be very disruptive.
Hell's Dentistry.
Oh, that would be. I would finance that. That deal.
I like it.
That would be a great thing, but to have a friend to come in and ask, why do you leave your instruments on the counter like that? That doesn't look good from a patient standpoint.
Yeah.
Why do I need to see these things? And I understand there's some ergonomics things that we have to have, but we can again adapt some of the things they say and not necessarily adopt what they do. So I think that's where we need to go with dentistry, is look outside of dentistry to find a way to do it.
So I'll tell you something interesting. A couple of weeks ago, I did a workshop with a client in Australia, in Sydney, and we were trying to develop their USP, their unique selling proposition. And what I got them to do was, we spent a bit of time working out who their avatar is, their ideal patient, and we had described her characteristics. It was a woman, and what she looked like, etc., etc. We even gave her a name. And then what I got the staff to do was to close their eyes and imagine that they were that person and think about all the things about the practice they would value. And I got them to, write it down individually, and then we wrote it all up on a whiteboard. We had a whiteboard full of comments and thoughts about Sarah, was the avatar's name, about what Sarah's thoughts were, from an entire whiteboard full about all the reasons they would love dealing with that dental practice. There was one comment about dentistry. So all the things that their avatar would love about dealing with that practice, and there was heaps and heaps of comments. There was only one that talked about dentistry. All of it was about how they'd feel when they came in, the relationships that they developed, the fact that the practice was helping them achieve the goals for the health of their family, etc., etc. Almost none of it was about dentistry.
I agree. The mechanics of dentistry are important, obviously, but beyond that, patients could care less. And like you said, the avatar patient, in any practice we go to, and it's typically that same person, we have to work towards them. We have to understand who our customer is.
Yeah.
One of the slides that I used in our presentation today was, I go back to Daimler-Benz. When Daimler-Benz created Mercedes-Benz, they had a number in mind, which they said would be 1 million users of their product. And in 2008, they created the Maybach, which was their limousine.
Okay.
And they sold 1 million Maybachs because the original idea of a driver was somebody who was hired to drive your car.
Right.
And in 2008, there were exactly 1 million registered drivers, meaning limousine drivers, livery drivers. So, here's somebody who knew his customer. He knew the product, and he created this great product, but he knew what he was working towards.
Right.
And he's fulfilled the needs of that customer. So that's where I look at looking at our active patient base, looking at who comes in, looking at who makes the appointments. How do we cater to them?
Yeah.
How does the office smell? How does the office feel?
Yeah.
Which are things that go above and beyond our technical training.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I mean, it's all very well to create these touch points that you think, oh, this is really innovative and so on, but if the patient doesn't value it, like what's the point? I mean, you could, and I'm just making something up. You could give them a free oil change, every time they get a clean and exam done. But for a lot of them, I don't want a free oil change.
Yep.
I just rather you are friendly. I want you to be on time. My goodness, you should hear my wife talk about she hates waiting. And in fact, there's a client that I'm working with in Queensland where it was fascinating to me. I said, oh, tell us about your practice. Tell us about what's unique. And he said, well, we actually measure how on time we are, and our data shows we're 99.5%. And I said, do you tell your patients that? Is that? And I was going, because as a marketer, I'm going, hello, USP right there.
Yep.
If we're not on time, we'll take $50 off the bill because, nobody asked us. We measured it ourselves, and we worked out that 99% of the time, there'd be a lot of people that would really resonate with.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you can't be abusive to them,
Sure.
but if they know that's part of the value prop, I'm going to be there, I'm going to be treated on time, they're friendly and they're nice, like, thank God for that.
Well, we worked with a client years ago, and they were transitioning there were multiple doctors who were going to move into a group setting. And while we were meeting, one of the questions was, who's going to be in charge of buying ordering the magazines for the office?
Right.
And one doctor turned to another, he says, why are we ordering magazines? None of our patients wait.
Ha.
And that became the tagline that they use now. So that's how they present it. They
I like
say,
it. I like
did you notice that we don't have magazines in our waiting room? It's just because nobody ever spends enough time out there to read a magazine.
Right.
And that has become sort of their underlying tagline that they use for all of their clients. And they do have a policy, which you'll love this. They charge $1 for every missed minute of appointment time. But they give back $1 for every minute they run behind as credit towards future service. So they back that up by saying, if it's our mistake, we understand. If it's your mistake, you will understand, commiserate with the timeline.
I really like it. That's a fantastic idea.
Sure.
The only thing I'd like to see perhaps is to say, we'll charge you $1 for every minute that you're late, and if we're late, we'll give you, say, $5, or $2, as a way of saying we have our 200% guarantee.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love it.
That's really attractive, and I mean, let's face it. If you're a patient where you go, oh, well, if I'm 5 minutes late, you're going to charge me $5. It's not the money.
No.
It's the message.
Exactly.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's we fly so much, and we give so much to the airline, but we never get anything back. There's never a sincere apology for the time delay, or somebody sitting on my lap. It's an interesting concept that we're stuck with this. But in dentistry, the patient has a choice.
Yeah. Can I tell you a story, Andre?
Sure.
Did you see my Facebook post yesterday?
Which I saw the one on the
airline.
Oh no, I didn't see that one.
Okay. This got nothing to do with this, but I thought it was kind of funny. Sorry, just had something turn off on the screen. So I'm on Southwest, and for the uninitiated, just move the camera back. You don't actually get a boarding pass per se. You sort of board it in groups, and then you can sit wherever. And so I guess the plane's like 30 rows deep, 6 wide. And I'm thinking I want to sit as far up the front as I can. And so first 6 or 8 rows, completely chockers. And I was one of the later people to board. And then I go, oh, there's a spot, I can just see it. It's in the middle up here on the right. And the reason it was empty is because on the aisle and the window was 2, shall we say, very large people.
Oh.
And so, you'd be sitting like that. And I walk a little bit further and, there's another space that's available in the middle. There are also 2 very large people. And so people had walked past because they knew they were going to be hammered from both sides. But anyway, just as an aside.
That's one of those things that we realize that there could be, again, a touch point. Imagine if there was someone who was kind of directing people to say, oh, there's some seating over this side, or just in the same way that when you walk into a wedding, you know, there's a thought process.
Bridal groom.
Exactly. There's a thought process behind that. And these are the things that we have to think about when we deal with our patients, you know. When we know that there's a patient who has anxiety, we shouldn't schedule them where there's another person who has a hyperactive gag reflex. You know, so that they have high anxiety, but what they hear from the operatory is this gag, you know, going on in the background.
Yeah.
So we have to be very conscious of these things, and we need to somehow or another flag the patients in our practice management software or somehow, so that we're their agents.
And if you could do that, I mean, the sort of loyalty that would generate. I mean, the only part, I suppose, is the client may not recognise that you're doing that for them. But
sure.
Nevertheless, anyway.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, look, there's been a lot of, hopefully you've got some value. Hello, Brian. Are you familiar with Brian? Brian Benny?
No, I don't know.
He says he was listening and watching. Well, thank you.
All right, Brian.
Thank you for tuning in. And Cindy wants us to make Hell's Dentistry. So you and I will do some workshopping after we turn off the
Cindy, you look for real estate for us.
Yeah, getting doctors on board is the key. Absolutely, absolutely. Cool. Well, look, Andre, it's been a real pleasure. Now, if people want to find out some more, so in my mind, I would call you business practice management, but I know you've got a far more beautiful title than that.
Well, we call it executive coaching, but it morphs based on the client. So
Right.
yeah, we work with clients on everything from, you know, acquisitions to my passion is working with doctors to help them find their philosophy of care.
Okay.
Yep.
Which is, I guess, ends up being a sort of a unique thing, part of their...
It is. It is defining that unique selling proposition so that they understand what they're doing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Andre, it's been a pleasure.
To you.
See you guys. Catch you again on Facebook Live.
Take care.